right. Good morning, everyone. I just want to make sure my volume is good. I see.
Schedule Raquel and let's set up the community drive.
I'll set.
Okay, but I want to do that today.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I see Raquel and Sada here. Could I just get a confirmation that everyone can hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start. Like I said, I'm going to be recording. So if you do have your mic on, we'll just mute the mics for now. But I definitely want to hear from you as we go through to answer any questions that you might have. So I'll just start out by introducing myself. If I haven't met you yet this year during any of our virtual sessions that we've had, my name is Ashley Black, and I'm the director of the IB program, EBI, at our school. I work with the students in the pre-K all the way to 8th grade, and also planning and developing curriculum with the teachers. So I'm super excited to be here today to speak with you about the community project.
True, but I can buy power tools with that now. I am for sure.
So sorry, I heard a little bit of feedback there on someone's mic. So like I was sharing, I'm just super excited to be here with you today to share information about the community project. I myself have been working in IB schools for over 12 years now. I've worked in IB schools in China and Florida and Portland, Oregon, and now in California. So I've seen the community project in a lot of different settings and done in a lot of different creative ways. So I'm so happy to see what our students do with it this year. And I know they have some background knowledge if they were here last year, but just like every individual student has their own journey, every class will take us in a different direction. And so I'm here to kind of share the framework of the project and then answer any questions that you have. So we'll go ahead and get started. I believe most of the people are here. Okay. So in the middle years program, at the end of year 3, which is where your students are at, they complete a community project. If they continue their IB journey in year 4 or 5, they would complete a personal project. And so these culminating experiences happen throughout the program. If your child was with us in grade 5, they would have completed their exhibition project. And so if you have any familiarity with that, it's a very similar process, but this one is just taking more of those individual skill sets a little bit deeper. So it's a culminating experience where they get to initiate their learning and then extend their knowledge and their skills that they've been developing since they've been with us. This is a list of activities that we'll be inquiring into over the course of the next few months. This is a pretty long project that we start, and the students will be deciding what they want to learn about. This is all student driven. They'll be identifying things they already know, the things they still need to know, just like when anyone starts a research project. The students will be working with multiple supports to develop a proposal for what they would like to do for their project. They'll be planning out their time, and they'll also be recording their developments that will later be used in the project. Students are making big decisions about which direction to go in their project, how to solve problems, how to communicate, and then how to actually create something to share with the community in the end. There's a evaluation, they'll evaluate themselves. They'll also have a mentor who will evaluate the process, and this will serve as a reflecting experience. So I'll share more about the grading towards the end, but I just wanted to share with you kind of the process of the experiences that your student will go through. I'm going to get a little bit deeper into the process as we go. So if you've been to any IB trainings before or sat in on any of our presentations, you know that things often go in cycles. The IB loves the cycles. And so this is the cycle of the project. We're going to go through one by one, and I'm just going to kind of give you some detail about what each of these will look like for your student. So the first one, phase 1, is what we call it. This is where they're really investigating. They're going to spend a lot of time investigating, and this is going to be supported in Chloe's language and literature class. She's been working with the students on their research skills this year, along with our librarian, Riva. And throughout this process, beginning next week, the students are going to start investigating, what they're interested in, and then start that deep research phase. Within this first section of the phase one, they'll be deciding on their local or their global community that what they want to research. They'll be, like I said, identifying their prior learning, because it's always good to figure out what do you already know about what you're going to be researching. They're going to define their goal around the need of the community that they chose. They'll start their initial research, and they'll make sure to select relevant resources. And we have Riva coming in to support the students in how to go about finding relevant resources and gathering information. During this phase, students will be recording information, their developments, in their process journal. And then they'll be deciding on the need that they want to address. Everything is connected to global context, and so I'll share a little bit about that in a moment. But the goal that they create will be connected to the community, and then they'll just continue to record their developments. And so in Chloe's class, they'll actually be completing a research paper that will help guide the rest of the inquiry. And so that's what's going to happen in phase one, just lots of research, lots of background knowledge, and then starting to decide kind of what direction they're going to go. And then we go into another phase. So during that investigation phase, like I said, the students will be connecting their topic to a global context. And these global contexts are the same global contexts that they've been learning under through their whole middle years program. So these are contexts that they're very familiar with and that they have learned through the lens of their content areas. So this is something that I think the students are very excited about, because maybe there's a global context that they've been drawn to throughout their program. And now they can kind of dig deeper into that global context. So we have a lot of guiding thought activities for the students that will help them decide which one's going to be right for the topic that they chose. This is just some examples, just to give you some perspective on the types of global contexts that students might be inquiring into. One of them that's really big for this project is globalization and sustainability. There's a lot of students who are passionate about the earth and about how that's connected to humans and how we interact in the world. So these are just some examples of topics that students in the past have inquired into under the global context of globalization and sustainability. So education as a tool to change the future of Peru, and the student created a workshop for adults. So some really fascinating projects have come out of the community project that we've seen. Another example of a global context that I see a lot of students use is identities and relationships. So all the ways we interact virtually and in person, and how that can affect how we interact as a society. So I'm going to go ahead and now speak to the next phase. So after the students have decided what they want to research and they've connected that to a global context, they've started this initial research period where they're starting to find out what the need might be. We get into the proposal phase. And this is a phase that I will be facilitating with the students during our study hall times throughout the week. And so I'll be facilitating the first phase with Chloe, and then in the second phase, I'll be leading that individually with the students. And so during the proposal phase, the students will develop a plan for their action. So now that they've found a community they want to support, they want to learn about, and they decided what the need is for that community, then they will decide the action. And if any of you are familiar with permaculture, that's very much, you kind of observe first, and then you dig in where you find the natural need. So I'm pretty excited to guide the students through the proposal for the action. And this will be initiated at the beginning of the phase, so it'll give us time to evaluate the action. So students will continue researching in this phase, and they'll work on the preparation for their action, and then they'll record the developments in their process journal. So we're not taking action yet, but we are starting to plan out what it needs to look like, so that everything goes the way that we hope that it would go. But this is also a process, and so I think some of the growth and learning is when things don't go the way you plan sometimes, and how you can be adaptable in those spaces. So that's also a part of the process for this journey. I've spoke a few times now about a process journal, so I want to make sure that I pause to discuss a little bit about what that will be. I'm actually meeting with the students today to start initiating some of those conversations about how they want their process journal to look. But we will house everything in a central location. The students have created their Google Drive folders and have shared those with me already this week. But within that, this is a creative process. So just like in art class and just like in design class, the students will have a process journal. And this isn't so much of a diary or a everyday thing. This is more of phases of your process and what's happening and taking good notes. And so those note takers out there probably understand how good it is to be able to go back and look at something. And so part of the process, part of the reason we have the process journals is because the students will use this for their reflection paper at the end. And it's always nice to jot down notes as we go. And also in science, we know that when we take good notes, we can go back and we can look at different routes that we could have taken. And so I've seen students do so many different things. It kind of could look like a collage inside their journal. It's like a very interactive document that they can use. And this can be physical or it could be virtual. And today when I meet with the students, we're going to kind of go over some different examples of the process journal. Within the process journal, there's a requirement of the IB that they have at least 10 to 15 extracts that they share from their journal. And this will help illustrate some of the grading process that I'll show you at the end. So there's specific things that the students are required to have in the journal, and I'll be sharing that with the students today, but I'll also give you an example just so that you have it as well. So this is just a picture out of a student's journal. There are some graphs. And I also wanted to add that there are other classes that are weaving the community project support into their classes. So it starts with Chloe, and then I'll be supporting the proposal process. And then from there, the students will be in class with Reggie. And this is the opportunity they have to create things like this, any data or documentation as far as quantifying anything that they're researching for their project. And in class with Suze, in their design class, there's going to be an opportunity to create a documentary if they choose to use that for their project. And she'll also be creating space and support for them with their final product and the presentation part of that. So we have, the classroom support, and then I'll be facilitating the whole process from beginning to end. And the students will also have mentors. They're called supervisors in the IB text, but the students are pretty used to using the word mentor from exhibition. So those words will be used interchangeably. But again, this is just an example of a process journal, and I'm going to share that with the students today. So within the community project, like I said, they'll be expected to share at least 10 extracts from their journal. And if they're working in a group, they'll share 15 extracts from their journal. So this is something more for the students because I know there's a lot of questions around the process journal, and I always want to make sure that I'm giving examples and non-examples. So like I said before, it's not a daily use item. It's something to document the process of that. I find I've created my own community project before in the past as a model for students, and I think the process journal becomes this very personal thing that you kind of hold on to afterwards. And so I'm really looking forward to supporting the students in developing their process journals. So we're going to go over to phase 3. And this is really when we're getting into that action part. So we're making decisions, we're solving problems. the students are communicating with their supervisor and they're creating their product. So this is a big action part of the process, and this will be supported by all of the supports that I mentioned before. The students will start to get ready for their next step, which is their presentations. So I know this year there have been a lot of adaptations and flexibility in part to education, and so we just want to make sure that action is safe. And during these times, I'm going to share with students and check in with them about the types of action that they want to do. But some action that they can do that's not in person this year could be to create a website as an advocacy for their topic that they chose.
Ooh, graphic novel.
Yeah, they could send and write letters. We've done that in the past at EBI. They could teach a lesson about their topic to another classroom at our school, create a podcast, which I think would be super cool if we had an EBI podcast. They could make an informational video, graphic novel. I think the action is very endless. And then again, Suze is offering that documentary support if that's something that students are interested in, or taking that documentary and turning it into something else. There'll be opportunities to do a lot of things that don't involve being in person, because we just want to make sure that we're keeping everyone safe during this time. So typically this might look differently, like volunteering at an animal shelter, but that is not the expectation this year, that we're physically getting into spaces where we could possibly not be safe. So I'll continue to answer questions about action. The students, that was the first thing they asked me, like, how can we do this? And I told them that I completely support them and help guide them. If there's something they wanted to do, then I'm really good at adapting things. So we will find our way, and it'll be really great. Looking at the final phase, this is the evaluation stage. This is when we're finishing up everything, tying the loose ends, and the students will be creating a reflection essay. In this essay, they're really just drawing from journal prompts from their process journal, the extracts. They're maybe sharing that product or pictures of something that they did or that they created. And there's a guide for how to do the reflection paper, but I don't want the students so focused on it because really it's just a way to share what you've already done. So you're not creating anything new. You're just kind of putting everything you've done into one place. And this will be a part of the evaluation process that goes into the grades. But it shouldn't be a big scary thing because all of your work is already there. So that's the part that I really love. And then we'll have our oral presentations, which I'll be discussing next. So the reflection paper and the presentation will be evaluating the quality of the action against the proposal that the student made. And I don't really want to use that word evaluate so strongly, because it's really just a reflection of, like, I planned this out. I needed to make these adaptations and this is how it turned out. It's not as though I said I would do this and it failed. So I'll make sure that I stress that to the students, that it's not about if your proposal went as planned, it's how you maneuvered through that. Well, this door closed, so then I went this way, and that's learning, right? Our students will be reflecting on the global context that they chose, the skills that they developed, the character traits of the learner profile, and then just their overall experience. Like, how did this feel for them? And if they were to do it next time, what would they do differently? And then we'll prepare and complete the oral presentations. And again, that will be supported in Suze's class, and also I'll be meeting with students, and they also have their mentors. I did want to link some resources here, and I'll share my slide, and I'll email this out to everyone, but I'll also share my slide here in the chat in a moment, just so you have it. But I have put a link, and the students will also have these available soon. Links to the past projects, because sometimes it's good to be able to see what's done before, especially because the class of last year, 2020, they did complete this during a very interesting time. And so it might benefit the students to kind of see how it was done last year. And we'll be reviewing that in class on Friday. And then I'm going to include a link to the student guide that all the students have by now downloaded. If they haven't, I'll make sure to catch up those students who weren't with us earlier in class this week. But this is just a timeline for the students. It includes a checklist and also the grading rubric. So the students already have all the information for the project in this guide. And this is really an adaptation that I created from the official IB guide. So that's the next link. If you're interested in looking at the IB MYP project guide, I'll link that here as well. And the reason I do that is because sometimes maybe there's something in the student guidebook that you would like more detail on. It's in there, but I think it's important sometimes to take these official documents and just make them more friendly, especially for students, so that it looks a little bit more fun. And so these documents are very similar, but the one that I created is more centered around EBI and our specific students. So I'll make sure that you get a copy of all of this. Let's speak a little bit about these final presentations. This is going to take place the week of May 24th. We wanted to do it over the course of a couple days because we realize that this will most likely be virtual, and we want to make sure that everyone has the time and space to present. And so the plan right now, under the current guidelines that we're under, we're going to do pre-recorded presentations, but we're going to do live Q&A sessions. And I think that's a good combination for the students because they can prepare something that they feel really proud of, they can present that, and then questions at the end will give them the opportunity to really express more in areas that maybe they didn't in their video, or questions that come up that people have that we haven't thought of yet. So the live Q&A, I think, will be a really exciting component this year of the project for the students. Of course, any questions you or your student has, please feel free to contact me. As I said, I am like the project manager for this. And then within that, all of the teachers and the faculty are supporting. But if there are any questions, I'm so happy to answer and or find the answer if I don't know. And as we go through this journey, I'll make sure to communicate the topics that the students have chosen. And if you have a background or an excitement or expertise in any of those areas, maybe a student will want to speak to you about that to get some more information during the research phase. So I'll make sure to reach out to let everyone know what the topics are and see if there's anyone who has some time to connect with one of our students to maybe just give them a little bit of background knowledge or information in an area that you might be an expert in. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording just so that, let's see. Yeah, okay. And I just want to open it up now for any questions that we have.